Discover how one misunderstanding with a billionaire turned her life around in just 30 days. In a tiny Midwestern town, Sarah Parker felt the suffocating weight of her life burying her under bills, responsibilities, and the daily grind of being a single mother. At 30, she poured her heart into her students as a schoolteacher, yet the world around her seemed to dismiss her efforts. With every parent-teacher meeting, her hope of making real change dwindled. The echo of ungrateful voices drowned out her dreams. "You're just a teacher," they'd say. Each insistence scratched the stubborn pride embedded in her soul, building an aching internal conflict she couldn't shake. On this ordinary day, amidst the chaos of the meeting, Sarah's irritation flared. Parents criticized the curriculum, faulting her for their kids' lackluster performance. She sensed their derision, irking the nerves in her body. It wasn't just the frustration boiling within her, it was the burden of knowing her dedication didn't measure up in their eyes. Then Noah Sinclair, a billionaire CEO, walked in, and for one fleeting moment, she felt a glint of excitement overshadowed by resentment. Why should someone like him care about the struggles of educators? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Yet her momentary distraction faded as she caught Noah's gaze, his face unreadable but laced with curiosity. Misinterpretation brewed tension when he misjudged her frustration as apathy toward community engagement. "Let us collaborate on a charity initiative," he proposed, sincerity and ambition tucked within the invitation. A fire ignited within her the gall of this man to come in and presume she needed his help. The unyielding pull of pride and resentment locked her in a battle. She didn't need charity, she needed respect. As days turned into weeks, Sarah reluctantly accepted the challenge, though the air crackled with unspoken disdain and spark. Every meeting felt like an uphill climb, two seemingly opposite forces colliding. Sarah fought against the fear that clawed at her. Could she work alongside Noah without diminishing her authority? A myriad of emotions floated through her determination, pooled alongside lingering self-doubt, reminding her of past failures. Every time she opened her mouth to speak, she felt the fraying edges of vulnerability wrap tightly around her. Just as the partnership began to draw out hidden talents in her, igniting fresh lessons and enthusiastic students, the shadows of her past began to weave back into her present. Would the truth, buried deep within her family history, emerge and jeopardize everything she had built with Noah? Each glance into his eyes reminded her that their worlds were miles apart, yet the connection was undeniable. But with every corner turned, an unresolved question loomed larger: could they really lift each other up, or were they destined to fall beneath insecurities they couldn't shake? As the weight of her choices hung heavily in the air, Sarah stood at a crossroads, feeling the impending storm of judgment threatening to shatter the fragile bond. Would this decision drag her back into the shadows of doubt, or would they rise together against all odds? Sarah stood in front of the blackboard, her hand brushing chalk across its surface as if she were encapsulating her thoughts. The classroom buzzed with energy, yet her heart was heavy with uncertainty. She had taken the plunge into this partnership without truly believing in herself or the potential it held. Despite her students' smiles and the eagerness they now showed, she battled against the voice in her head that taunted her with doubts. The months had passed since her initial collision with Noah. Their ongoing meetings, fraught with tension yet unexpectedly revealing, were gradually transforming her perspective. She watched him navigate the corporate arena effortlessly, each decision calculated yet infused with a passion she hadn't anticipated. In those moments, as the two of them worked late to hash out ideas for their charity initiative, snippets of her own motivation stirred within her. But it wasn't seamlessly uplifting. The specter of her family's financial struggles haunted her. Even as she engaged with Noah's vision of educational excellence, her experiences loomed large, drumming up fears that threatened to unravel her progress. Could she shake off the weight of her lineage, one steeped in failure? Guilt climbed up her throat when she pictured the conversations at home. "You're just a teacher," they would echo, a mantra embedded into her very being. Yet there he was, a billionaire, leaning into collaboration. The walls around her heart fractured slightly with each brainstorming session, and with each idea they exchanged, she felt herself bending, not breaking. It wasn't just about trust, it was about rediscovering the essence of her own worth. Her voice gained steadiness. Her ideas, once buried under self-doubt, began to flow out bold, unfiltered, and tenacious. "Noah," she remarked one day, a new fire kindling in her belly, "if we're really going to make this work, we need to get the parents involved, make them realize that education is a collaborative effort." The words emerged with unexpected clarity, resonating within her as truth. He nodded, enthusiasm tangibly animating the features of his face. "Exactly. Get the community involved as well. We can't just hand them solutions. We need them to understand their role." The burgeoning connection began to blur the lines of their contrasting backgrounds. They weren't so different after all. Many nights were spent deep in conversation, weaving personal stories with professional goals, a juxtaposition she never saw coming. And yet, each engagement surfaced bursts of regard intermingled with tentacles of insecurity that wrapped tightly around her heart. Just when she thought they were navigating their journey together, a sudden phone notification disrupted her thoughts, a reminder of the upcoming parent meeting. Sarah's heart plummeted to her stomach. Could she face them again after they had undermined her work before? She doubted every ounce of resolve she had been nurturing. But this time, it was more than her anxiety resurfacing. An idea flickered in the back of her mind. What if she turned this transition into a triumph? What if she channeled her fear into empowering her interactions? As she clenched her hands together, breathing steadily, an unexpected resolve enveloped her. Noah would stand beside her, and their collaborative spirit would finally combat the judgment lurking outside. Moments before she could fall into the chasm of self-doubt, she vowed that she owed it to herself to confront the parents with clarity and strength. Determined and slightly anxious, she prepared for the meeting. The stage was set for both confrontation and revelation. Would this confrontation set ablaze a new chapter in her professional journey, or would the judgment of her past extinguish her resolve when it mattered the most? The meeting loomed like a storm cloud, each minute ticked away with an unbearable slowness. Sarah's palms felt clammy as she reviewed her notes, trying to memorize the key points that would forge a connection with the parents. Their skepticism had been palpable in previous encounters, and she feared it would resurface with a vengeance. But there was a newfound flicker of courage in her chest, one that nudged her to confront those fears head-on. The classroom was filled with an air of anticipation. Parents trickled in, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. Sarah took a deep breath, holding on to the remnants of her determination. Noah entered the room, his confident demeanor instantly elevating the mood. As he took his place beside her, an unspoken alliance formed between them. The duality of their backgrounds faded as they shared the same purpose in this endeavor. "Thank you all for coming," Sarah began, her voice steadier than it had ever been. "Tonight, we want to discuss not only our vision for education but the indispensable role of parents in making this vision a reality." She could see skepticism lingering in the room, faces hardened by years of unmet expectations. "Education must be a partnership," Noah interjected smoothly, his tone authoritative yet warm. "We can't expect change to flourish in isolation. We need your input, your voices, and, more importantly, your involvement." He articulated the complexities of the initiative with finesse, drawing hesitant nods from the audience. Each time he spoke, Sarah felt her confidence swell. But just as momentum built, a voice broke through the murmur, one she recognized all too well. "So, what makes you think you can lead this? You're just a teacher, after all." The words dripped with disdain, echoing the judgment she had faced for years. The room drew in a collective breath, tension crackling in the air. Sarah's heartbeat quickened, the familiar ache of insecurity inching back into her throat. But in that moment, as she glanced at Noah's unwavering gaze, she realized that she could either retreat into her past or step boldly into her truth. "I am just a teacher," she countered, her voice firm. "But I am also someone who believes that every child deserves the best. This initiative isn't solely mine, it's ours. It's about harnessing everyone's strengths, including yours." This was not merely a response but a revelation, a realization that her role as an educator was more than just a title, it was an invitation for collaboration. As the room quieted, their collective astonishment hung heavy. Some parents shifted in their seats, their expressions softening slightly. They began to see her not just as an instructor but as a leader willing to shoulder responsibility. Sarah pressed on, sharing statistics and visions, weaving her narrative with the facts Noah had meticulously pulled together. "Together, we can create an environment where our children thrive," she urged, her passion igniting a flicker of hope. "Let us reject the narrative of helplessness. This is about empowerment, not just for your children, but for you as well." Each word became more than just a speech, they were threads binding her voice to the hearts of those present. And when parents began to raise questions and share their thoughts, Sarah felt herself transform. Each interaction lifted her self-imposed shackles, revealing capabilities she had tucked away for too long. The dialogue flourished, questions sparking debates that shifted the room's energy. But as they engaged, Sarah felt a tug in her gut. This was only the beginning. Walking out, Sarah could barely contain her exhilaration. It was more than a meeting, it was a turning point. Yet, lurking beneath the triumph was a question she couldn't shake. Would her newfound confidence hold up when faced with harsher realities and deeper challenges? The true test was yet to come. As she looked at Noah, a thread of reassurance connected them. They had made progress here, but the road ahead was open and uncertain. What hurdles awaited them next, and could their partnership withstand the trials to come? The morning sun streamed through the window, illuminating the classroom with a soft golden hue. Sarah sat at her desk, still grappling with the aftershocks of the previous evening's meeting. She could still hear echoes of the parents' discussion, some reflective and impressed, others still skeptical. Ignoring gravity-induced thoughts of self-doubt, she summoned a deep breath, determined not to let fear linger. Today, she faced a new challenge, implementing the educational strategies discussed and ensuring the enthusiasm didn't evaporate. Instead of busily preparing a schedule, Sarah paused, focusing her mindset on engagement. Personal connection was crucial, not just with the parents but also with her students. They needed to understand the importance of their role in this educational revolution. Her attention turned to the students milling about the room, animated in their discussions. This was her domain, a space where she could influence and inspire. With newfound clarity, Sarah tapped into emotions she hadn't acknowledged before, an understanding that her ability to build relationships was fundamental not only to her profession but her identity as an educator. "All right, class," she announced, her voice ringing through the air, slicing through their chatter. "Today, we're going to kick off a new project, one that will empower you to take charge of your learning journey. This isn't just about finishing assignments, this is about discovering your strengths." The students perked up, curiosity replacing the initial disinterest. Their eyes drew in on her, a collective focus that she'd almost forgotten how to command. As she explained the project, detailing how each student could express their ideas creatively, she noticed hands eagerly shooting up with questions. How had she drifted into the habit of merely lecturing? Sarah analyzed this unintentional disconnection and its consequences. It highlighted the fear of stepping into the unknown, of exploring her potential as a mentor. Each of these children had their individual personalities, dreams, and talents, waiting to be unleashed. As they brainstormed ideas for the project, Sarah transitioned from being the authority in the room to a facilitator, gently guiding their thoughts. She embraced vulnerability for the first time, sharing her own fears and aspirations as a teacher. When Sam, one of her quieter students, proposed a documentary about local heroes, Sarah felt a rush of pride towards him. "That's brilliant, Sam. You have a powerful voice, let's talk about how you can present that to the class." Empowering students wasn't just about handing them the reins, it was about equipping them with the tools to believe in themselves, to find their voice. However, in the back of her mind, the specter of doubt threatened. She recalled the doubts that still simmered among the parents, the skepticism hanging around their notions of her competence. It would be so easy to retreat to familiar territory, so simple to dismiss herself as just a teacher again. But she was feeling the stirrings of something profound, a desire to break beyond those constraints. As the class wrapped up, Sarah smiled, satisfied with the energy of the day. Yet, the question loomed larger: how could she carry this momentum into the next challenge? The anticipation of the upcoming parent-teacher conference gnawed at her. What if she faced opposition again? Noah's support felt like an anchor, but she knew the true measure of her growth would come from her ability to stand up for her vision. As she prepared to leave the classroom, her determination solidified. She would harness that energy and channel it into navigating the complexities ahead. But as Sarah walked out the door, a text message lit up her phone. It was Noah, saying available for an urgent meeting. Instinctively, her heart sunk. Had they encountered opposition? Would doubts derail their newfound progress? She hesitated, teetering between anxiety and anticipation. The next steps were as crucial as they were uncertain. Would she rise to meet the challenge? Again? Stepping into the hallway, Sarah's heart raced as she read Noah's message again. The urgency, the potential for conflict, rapidly shifted her mood from buoyant to apprehensive. She took a deep breath, gathering her composure before responding. Timing was everything, she needed to balance her professionalism with her vulnerability. "I can meet now," she typed back, her fingers hovering anxiously before hitting send. The empty classroom echoed behind her, a stark contrast to the vibrant discussions that had taken place just minutes earlier. The smell of whiteboard cleaner lingered in the air, a reminder that she was still grappling with the remnants of her own doubts. Just then, a group of students rushed past her, places to be, choices to make, a fluid reminder that time wouldn't wait for her to catch up. Navigating through the bustling corridors, her mind raced with possible scenarios for the meeting. Would Noah deliver gut-wrenching news? Would they have to confront the skeptical parents head-on? The uncertainty wrapped around her like a thick blanket. She reminded herself that this was a moment of opportunity, a chance to clarify their vision and rally support. She had to believe in her purpose. Arriving at Noah's office, she noticed how flush his face was, a telltale sign that he was as uneasy as she was. "Hey," he greeted, the tension palpable between them. Sarah returned the greeting, trying to mask her nerves with enthusiasm. "What's going on?" she asked, leaning slightly forward, tuning into his energy. Noah ran a hand through his hair, a usual sign of distress. "I've spoken to some of the parents," he began, and Sarah's stomach clenched. "Some are concerned about the changes you're implementing. They think it's too drastic." She felt anger bubble up at the thought of her ideas being dismissed. "Drastic changes are often necessary for growth," she mumbled, knowing it was an impossible stance to take in front of the very concerns that fueled her doubts. The walls felt confining. "I agree, but you have to prepare for the meeting next week," Noah advised. "You need to address their fears. They want to see results, and quickly. They need to know that these strategies will truly benefit their children." The implications of his words struck her. Sarah had aimed to instill long-term benefits for her students, but she had overlooked the need for demonstrated wins in the eyes of the parents. She had to make these concepts concrete in their minds. "How can I do that without compromising my vision?" The frustration crept in yet again. Would she have to scale back to appease those resistant to change? Noah paused, observing her. "What if you encourage the students to present their projects at the conference? Show their parents what they can achieve through your vision," he proposed. The idea perked her interest, igniting a spark of hope. By putting her students front and center, she could shift the focus away from her own insecurities. "That's actually brilliant," Sarah replied, excitement creeping into her tone. "It could showcase the transformation in real time." "Exactly," Noah replied, his eyes lighting up. "It also demonstrates their engagement and personal growth, something the parents can visibly support." The clarity felt like sunlight piercing through her doubts, illuminating a pathway she hadn't considered. But doubt soon reared its head once more. Could she orchestrate this? Could she trust her students to deliver? "Noah," she hesitated, "what if they don't respond, or if their progress isn't up to par? What if I'm setting them up for failure?" "Then you guide them. That's your role as their teacher," he assured her. That truth resonated deeply. She had doubtlessly embraced challenges before, igniting sparks in others. This moment bore potential, not just for her personal growth but for her collective journey with her students. As they discussed logistics, Sarah's confidence began to grow anew. She envisioned the conference filled with proud parents cheering on their children, each project a testament to her vision of empowered learning. Gratitude flooded her veins as she promised herself to nurture this momentum. Yet, a lingering thought niggled at her mind: was she truly prepared to handle adverse reactions if they surfaced? Now the stakes felt higher than ever. With a sense of responsibility hanging heavily, she resolved to confront whatever came next. As she walked back out, her heart pounded with potential and anxiety intertwined. She could feel the upcoming conference hanging over her, a treacherous mountain to climb. Would she be ready for the unveiling of her students' successes, or would doubt once again threaten to derail everything she had worked for? Back at her desk, Sarah stared blankly at the mountain of paperwork. Each sheet felt like an avalanche threatening to bury her. She could almost hear the distinct buzz of the conference coming to life around her, but right now, it was just a distant echo, muddled in her mind by worry and uncertainty. The excitement Noah shared during their planning hung in the air, a stark contrast to the icy grip of doubt that clenched her heart. She could no longer afford to waver in her vision. With her fingers brushing against the edge of her notes, she felt a surge of determination to combat the skepticism that had started to creep in. A flash of an idea struck her. What if she actively involved her students in overcoming their own fears? This wasn't simply a presentation for parents, it was a platform for her students to battle their insecurities and share their achievements directly. They could create their own narratives, and she could guide them in crafting their stories. That evening, Sarah spent hours drafting a framework for the conference. With each paragraph she typed, she visualized her students presenting their projects, beaming with pride. That image became a catalyst, fueling her focus. She imagined their presentations as displays of personal growth, a tapestry of their struggles and successes. Yet, concern still gnawed at her. What if they faltered under the pressure? She needed to prepare them thoroughly. The idea transformed into a plan: weekly practice sessions where they could rehearse their presentations in a supportive environment. She could show them how to channel their nerves into confidence. As the days passed, Sarah's dedication morphed into a series of intimate workshops with her students. During each session, laughter often intermingled with hesitance, but the collective energy was sharp, an amalgamation of creativity and anxiety that she aimed to harness. One student, Emma, a particularly shy girl, struggled to articulate her thoughts. Each time she stuttered, Sarah felt a familiar pang of anxiety, almost reverberating her own inner fears. "Emma, what if we turned this into a conversation with your audience? Instead of presenting, you could invite them into your creative world," Sarah suggested during a particularly tough session. In that moment, she recognized how powerful it was to adapt her teaching style based on the individual needs of her students. The transformation was palpable. As Emma grew more comfortable sharing her ideas, the dynamic in the room shifted. Other students began to follow suit, drawing from Emma's courage. Each success fueled Sarah's confidence, solidifying her belief in both her vision and her students. But as the conference loomed closer, so did the heavy cloud of parental skepticism. They were waiting and watching, and Sarah needed to ensure that this plan bore fruit. Driven by the growing determination within her, Sarah spent late nights poring over presentation content, carefully crafting a narrative to accompany each project. She wanted the students' brilliance to shine but also knew it could all unravel if they stumbled. On the eve of the conference, she stood before her classroom, now filled with projects and overflowing enthusiasm. The shadow of doubt tried to slink back into her mind. What if the day went poorly? What if she was setting herself up for failure? It hadn't taken long for doubt to begin its infiltration. But this time, resolution steadied her breath. She was not just advocating for her ideas, she was nurturing the growth of her students alongside her. That shared journey would manifest powerfully in ways she had yet to realize. Tomorrow would unveil a crucial chapter not only for her students but for her as well. She had decided to embrace the impending chaos, ready to face the unknowns that lay ahead. As she turned off the lights and locked the door behind her, she felt an invigorating blend of fear and hope. The challenges she faced felt almost exhilarating. But now, the question lingered: when the time came, would she have the strength to stand tall against the overwhelming tide of expectation and scrutiny, or would she falter under pressure? As dawn broke, casting a golden hue through her classroom windows, Sarah's mind raced with anticipation. Today was not just about presenting her students' hard work, it was a chance for them to assert their own stories and confront their vulnerabilities. Yet, with each tick of the clock, unease intertwined with her excitement, stirring the question of whether she had truly prepared them for this moment. The auditorium was buzzing with parents, their chatter an ominous reminder of the added pressure hovering over her head. She could feel the glances and whispers from the parents, a mix of curiosity and judgment hanging in the air. Would they appreciate her unconventional approach, or would they dismiss her efforts as naive? With her voice steady, Sarah gathered her students in a huddle, sensing the anxious energy radiating from them. Their expressions mirrored her own, an amalgam of fear and hope. Today, we're not just sharing projects, she began, her resolve hardening. We're sharing who we are. Each of you has a story that deserves to be heard. If you stumble, remember, it's okay to invite your audience into that moment. They're here to support you. Encouraged by her words, the students nodded, determination flickering in their eyes. This was their moment, and together they would ignite a spark of inspiration. As she walked into the auditorium, their confident postures steadied her nerves. The conference commenced, starting with Emma's presentation. As she took the stage, Sarah's heart raced, her palms sweating lightly. Emma hesitated at first but embarked on her journey of storytelling, weaving an engaging narrative that drew in the audience. Each word became a bridge, connecting her to parents who nodded, absorbed in her creative world. Witnessing Emma's success ignited a fire in Sarah. It was more than just a classroom presentation, it was a testament to the power of vulnerability. The applause that erupted at the end was cathartic, washing over both Emma and Sarah, reminding her of the transformation they had allowed to unfold. As the presentations continued, the applause transformed into overwhelming cheers and supportive laughter. The students thrived, feeding off the energy of the audience, turning their fear into a symphony of validation. Sarah stole glances at the parents, observing their expressions shift from skepticism to admiration. It was an exhilarating transformation, and for the first time in a long while, she felt she might indeed be on the right path. But amidst the celebration, a familiar voice broke through her thoughts. Noah approached, eyes wide in disbelief at the sheer passion radiating from the students. Sarah, he began, excitement coloring his tone, this isn't just a conference, it's a movement. We could take this approach further. The workshops, the narratives, it could change education. His words electrified her, but a nagging thought persisted: was she truly ready for such an expansion? The potential for her work to become even bigger ignited a rush of enthusiasm coupled with an unsettling doubt. A movement meant more responsibility, more exposure, and greater judgment from beyond the confines of her classroom. As the final presentations concluded, a notable figure made their way to the front, a well-respected education advocate known for her extreme standards. Sarah felt the room's energy shift as eyes landed on this individual, the weight of expectation settling heavily on her shoulders once more. Would they face judgment or validation today? In a twist, the advocate approached Sarah, looking both impressed and inquisitive. "I'd like to discuss how we can collaborate on bringing this vision to a wider audience," she said, her eyes piercing yet hopeful. Sarah's heart raced. The inevitable confrontation with her own limiting beliefs surged forth. This opportunity could transform everything for her and her students, but it also faced her with the singular choice: would she accept or retreat? The recognition of what lay ahead loomed, teasing deeper questions about her own abilities and readiness. Could she navigate this journey without losing herself in the demands of ambition? As she watched her students celebrate their achievements, Sarah took a deep breath, the moment crystallizing around her, a catalyst for growth beyond the classroom. Would she step into the next chapter, embracing the unknown that awaited her in this potential partnership, or would she let fear dictate her direction? The days that followed the conference were a whirlwind of emotions for Sarah. Each moment oscillated between elation from her students' success and the looming specter of uncertainty surrounding her potential partnership with the education advocate. Was it possible that her dreams of expanding her approach could coalesce into a tangible reality? Flashes of doubt flickered in tandem with her aspirations, painting an intricate graph of hope and fear. At home, Sarah found herself pacing. She replayed the day's events, trying to capture the electric atmosphere of the auditorium and the palpable connection between students and their families. That moment, that precious transformation, deserved to be cherished. Yet, as she sat down to draft her thoughts for the advocate, her mind became a battlefield. Each word she typed bore the weight of newfound expectations. Did she possess the necessary skills to take this leap? Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, trapped in a swirl of what-ifs. Images of her students, each one vulnerable yet unapologetically raw on that stage, reminded her of her own vulnerability. Could she confront her fears in the same way they had? The prospect of collaboration lingered like an indelible ink stain, refusing to fade as it hung between potential and self-doubt. The next morning, Sarah decided to confide in Noah. As her colleague and the person who had ignited this ambition, he understood her better than anyone else. "It's not just about being ready," she confessed over coffee, allowing her insecurities to spill out. "It's about thinking I can manage something that could change everything. I'm terrified of failing." Noah fixed her with a steady gaze. "Not acting on this is also a choice, Sarah. You've planted the seeds, now it's time to nurture them. What is the worst that could happen? What about the potential for growth?" His words resonated with her, carving pathways through her tangled thoughts. Now resolved to confront her fears, Sarah initiated the conversation with the education advocate. She meticulously prepared her ideas, crafting a narrative that reflected both the successes of her students and the vision she had for furthering their experiences. Each point highlighted not only her personal development but also how this collaboration could ignite a wildfire of creativity in education. When they finally met, the discussion flowed more naturally than Sarah had anticipated. The advocate, driven by passion as much as expertise, provided insights that amplified Sarah's own thoughts. They dissected ideas, outlined potential workshops, and discussed strategies for engaging a broader community. It was a revelation. Sarah realized that her voice was not only valid but crucial in this conversation. That realization sent waves of confidence crashing into her previously stagnant self-doubt. She began to meticulously map out their shared vision, but just as she began to feel empowered, another wave of anxiety rolled in. The stakes felt exponentially higher now. This was beyond her classroom, it touched upon futures, shaping narratives on a larger canvas. Through the flurry of planning and collaboration, Sarah stumbled upon her own hidden talents. She began to uncover an unexpected knack for public speaking and advocacy. Building on her student storytelling, she delved into narrative structures and thought-provoking questions that could feed the workshop's frameworks. As the adrenaline of this new venture coursed through her veins, questions surfaced once more. What was she willing to sacrifice for this journey? Was she ready to make her mark on the educational landscape, or would her ambitions lead to unforeseen pitfalls? With her thoughts spiraling around the interplay of growth and risk, Sarah settled into a profound decision-making moment. One that could redefine both her identity as an educator and as an individual. The direction her life might take was crystallizing before her, but that clarity brought its own kind of trepidation. And as whispers of doubt once more threatened her focus, a sudden email notification blipped onto her screen, displaying a message from the advocate she had just met. "Can we meet again? I have some exciting developments to discuss regarding our project." Tension coiled in her gut, invigorated by the thrill of possibility yet burdened by the weight of anticipation. How would the next meeting unfold? Would it bring validation or further complicate her journey? In that moment, Sarah realized she was on the edge of something profound, ready to plunge into uncharted depths of her own potential. What awaited her beyond the next meeting might illuminate secrets she had yet to discover about herself, or drown her ambitions in a sea of complexity. The next day dawned with a tremor of anticipation weaving through Sarah's thoughts. She sat at her desk, glancing at the clock more often than usual, the minutes stretching out like an eternity. The proposed meeting loomed over her, infusing her with both excitement and debilitating anxiety. Hours later, she found herself seated across from the advocate in a neighborhood cafe, its walls lined with inspirational quotes about dreams and potential. The advocate, Jenna, greeted her with an energetic smile that hinted at the ambitions swirling behind it. "Thanks for coming in," Jenna began, her voice steady and warm. "I've been thinking about our conversations and I believe we can launch something truly impactful." As the discussion unfolded, Jenna outlined her thoughts on leveraging Sarah's framework to reach a wider audience. Each concept Jenna articulated sparked a flicker of hope within Sarah, but bursts of self-doubt quickly followed. Was she truly capable of leading this initiative? "Sarah," Jenna's tone shifted, impelling Sarah's attention. "You have an incredible ability to connect with your students. That doesn't just happen, you know. It's a skill. We can harness that. Imagine transforming classrooms into spaces where every student's voice matters." The passion in Jenna's voice fueled Sarah's energy. She listened intently, her mind racing to capture every idea. But as they talked, a gnawing question resurfaced: would her voice truly matter outside her classroom? "I appreciate your faith in me, but what if I can't meet these expectations? What if I falter?" The words tumbled out before she could tether them, vulnerability spraying across the table like spilled ink. Jenna leaned forward, her eyes piercing with clarity. "It's normal to feel that way. But remember, every great initiative comes with its risks. The key is to embrace that fear as part of the process." As their dialogue flowed, Sarah began to recognize her inherent ability to strategize, to pivot conversations into concepts with real-world applications. Internal dialogues shifted. Instead of questioning her capacity, she started to see fragments of the leader she could be. Jenna presented a specific challenge that sent a pang through Sarah's heart: "I want you to lead the first workshop." A real test of what we've discussed. Shock gripped Sarah. The prospect of leading a workshop felt daunting, yet part of her yearned for this leap. Would embracing the challenge be just what she needed to confront her deeply rooted fears? They fleshed out the workshop's framework, evolving Sarah's ideas into actionable plans. At each turn, Sarah's insights felt more potent, her confidence building like a crescendo. She began visualizing a gathering of eager learners, each voice adding vitality to the discourse. But as images of success danced in her mind, familiar shadows flickered at the edges. What if the workshop failed? What if her apprehensions proved too overwhelming? "Sarah," Jenna interrupted her spiraling thoughts, her voice grounding. "You're not alone in this. You have my support, and don't forget, you have your students cheering you on in spirit." A swell of gratitude enveloped Sarah, breaking field boundaries of her pride. Perhaps this undertaking required not just individual talent, but also the ability to lean on collaborative strength. Returning home that evening, a mental tapestry of plans and questions unfolded before Sarah. She faced a pivotal choice: embrace the risk of potential failure or retract into the safety of her existing role. As she paced her living room, her heart raced, contemplating the office of ambition waiting beyond her comfort zone. In the days leading up to the workshop, disparate threads of her identity began to intertwine: educator, advocate, leader. Yet, as her confidence burgeoned, doubt lurked beneath the surface, threatening to drown this new self-discovery. As the date for the workshop closed in, the reality of her situation crystallized. Sarah was standing on a precipice, with the horizon blurred by anticipation and fear. What awaited Sarah during the workshop might shift the trajectory of her journey. Would she rise and claim her space as a leader, or would the shadows of self-doubt extinguish her flickering light? The day of the workshop arrived, each second tinged with a blend of exhilaration and anxiety. As Sarah stood before the mirror, she scrutinized her reflection, searching for the confidence she felt in past moments. The stakes felt higher than ever. This was not just for her, but for all the students she sought to empower. She remembered their faces during the conference, beaming with pride. They deserved a champion, and here she was, poised to be that very beacon. Entering the space, the ambience brimmed with anticipation. Parents and educators filled the room, the air charged with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. Sarah's mind raced over possibilities. Could she sway this audience? Would her vision resonate? She took a deep breath, allowing herself to be anchored in the present. This was her moment to shine, built upon the foundations of countless hours she invested with her students. Jenna welcomed the participants, setting the tone for collaboration and engagement. When it was Sarah's turn, she walked to the front with her heart pounding. She felt vulnerable yet powerful, standing on the cusp of her own evolution. "Welcome everyone," she began, her voice steady despite the tremor within. "Today, we're not just discussing strategies, we're rewriting the narrative of what education can be." The room fell into a hush, and as she spoke, she wove her own journey into a broader narrative. The challenges she faced wrestling with self-doubt, the transformation she witnessed in her students, everything linked together. As she transitioned to showcasing student projects, excitement rippled through her. Each student's work represented not just academic achievement, but profound growth, a mirror reflecting how education could ignite passion and voice. The pride in sharing their journeys bolstered her confidence, and she could see parents shifting from skepticism to intrigued engagement. When she invited students on stage to share their experiences, the energy shifted dramatically. The applause punctuated each presentation, filling the room with an atmosphere of validation. Parents began to see the impact their involvement had on the students' lives. It was no longer just about her, it was about every one of those children stepping into their power. But as the applause peaked and the atmosphere buzzed with enthusiasm, a parent stood to voice a concern, the familiar spouting of doubt, resonating like a painful echo. How can we trust this movement will truly work? What are the assured outcomes? A wave of tension washed over the crowd. This was the moment Sarah had both anticipated and feared. But instead of retreating into insecurity, she steadied her breath, recalling Noah's unwavering support, and the countless hours with her students reinforcing their narratives. "It begins with trust, doesn't it?" she replied, her tone confident yet inviting. "Every initiative faces skepticism. But I stand before you not just as an educator but as an advocate for our children to show you their potential." Her voice gained strength alongside clarity. They had embarked on this journey together, and it was essential to embrace the unknown. Let us commit to this process together to believe in our students and, in turn, ourselves. Sarah's honesty resonated, and slowly, nods of agreement emerged. People began to speak up, sharing their hopes and fears, creating a dialogue where skepticism transformed into collaborative inquiry. The workshop turned into an enriching discussion where everyone had a stake in the evolution of education. As the afternoon waned, Sarah left the podium, her heart soaring. Every doubt she had faced now appeared trivial compared to the connection she had forged with the audience. They were no longer just parents and educators but allies in a shared mission, a pivotal moment of empathy and insight solidifying her journey ahead. Days turned into weeks as Sarah's initiative flourished, with workshops gaining traction, each engaging more community members than the last. Feedback transformed into tangible results, students deeply investing in their learning and parents revitalized in their involvement. But most importantly, Sarah achieved a profound internal victory. She had overcome not just her doubts but transformed them into resilience and strength. No longer merely just a teacher, she was now a recognized leader within her community, celebrated for her innovative approach to education. Stepping into the next phase felt like a triumphant conclusion, with the power of her journey echoing through every engaged dialogue, every proud expression on her students' faces. Each challenge had unwrapped more of her potential, glowing brightly in culmination. Sarah's heart pushed its own boundaries, resonating with her newfound recognition and acceptance. She stood tall, proud of who she had become, with the enormous horizon of possibilities before her, a teacher, an advocate, and a leader transformed. Your journey also deserves to be told, a story of overcoming insecurities and rising to your potential. You need to subscribe now for more inspiring narratives that break barriers. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and spread roots of encouragement. Comment below with your thoughts and theories on how you confront your struggles. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who crave inspiration in their lives. This is the moment to show your support.